Hi, I'm Marcus, and welcome to the License to Kill podcast, where pest control professionals meet cutting-edge expertise, industry insights, and a whole lot of camaraderie. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting your journey as a PMP, this podcast dives into everything that makes our industry tick. From advanced techniques and groundbreaking products to hilarious field stories and the real talk about the challenges we face in our industry. Join us as we explore the science, art, and community behind pest control, celebrating the people who work tirelessly to keep our world safe, healthy, and pest-free. As always, stay sharp, stay connected, stay legendary. Let's start the show.
There is new research. So when we talk about resistance in urban pest management, all species of insects are not resistant. You got, at least top 5 species, right? You got the German roach, you got the pet bug, you got what's it called? Some stable flies, and you got the housefly and the mosquitoes. Those are the top 5 species that have developed resistance over the years. So those are the species that you really have to narrow down chemical application and rotation and all that shit. But have you ever heard about the housefly high resistance to neonics?
No, I haven't heard anything about it. I can go ahead and give it a Google real quick.
Yeah, basically, if you apply imidacloprid to houseflies, let's say products with imidacloprid like Flybait from Bayer or now Enview, you will not have a significant kill. People thought, well, if they are highly resistant to imidacloprid, they should be, therefore, highly resistant to the other neonics, like dinotefluran, acetamiprid, clothianidin, etc., right? Just the way it happens with pyrethroids, let's say deltamethrin, beta-cyflutrin, like they share that resistance, which is called cross-resistance inside the group. It turned out that while 14% of the exposed flies died with the flybait, which is basically nothing, 99% of the flies died with dinotefluran.
Yeah, see, I've had some really great results using dinotefluran, and I just was, so even though they're both neonics, you're saying there's just something specific about imidacloprid that isn't effective?
Exactly.
Do we know what's causing imidacloprid to fail?
It's at least for the flies. I think it's a ring structure of the molecule.
The ring structure of the molecule. So the other day we were talking about the cyano head on the pyrethrin molecules. Mm-hmm. What is significant about this ring structure that you're talking about?
I don't quite remember. I just remember that. I remember that there is a specific part of the molecule imidacloprid that is not as effective on killing flies, but it's not shareable with the other neonics. Like the other neonics don't have that specific structure, and they are highly lethal. So even though they are all neonics, the active ingredient itself, imidacloprid, was the one failing. Not the whole group per se,
Right. I'm
which to
reading
me is
an
pretty cool.
article on it here. Let's see. It is backing what you're saying about a unique resistance to the imidacloprid. Let's see. Other neonics that neonics could be used are chemically different from imidacloprid. A team at University of California, Riverside decided to investigate whether flies were resistant to imidacloprid could show cross resistance, that is, resistance to other members of the same insecticide. Their study, published in August in the Journal of Medical Entomology, shows that at least their sample of housefly resistant to imidacloprid showed no behavioral cross resistance to other neonics.
Oh yeah.
So let's see what's
Oh
going
yeah.
on. Let's dive in. Looked at whether the laboratory colony of flies were behaviorally resistant to imidacloprid, showed any resistance to other neonic pesticides. In their experiment, 25 female flies, a pretty small amount if I'm being honest, placed in 3 test chambers per treatment. 75 flies were used in each experimental replicate. Just kind of talking about the significant of it. I wish it would dive into the molecule though. Honestly, there's no. Okay, it was no clear why imidacloprid resistant flies showed no resistance to other chemicals. Imidacloprid has a unique chemical structure among the members of neonicotinoid or neonic insecticide class. With this is what you were talking about. Here we go.
Yeah.
Imidazoline ring. That's interesting. And
Isn't that cool?
nitramine functional group. Yeah, that's incredibly. What a great way to start this whole thing off. Okay, so let's give that a Google. What is that ring?
Do you know that in pest control, and this is very important, because it can make you interpretate how you see papers, research papers, right?
Right.
In pest control, risk of damage is toxicity times exposure. Toxicity times exposure.
Right.
Think
That's
about
why products like fipronil, which aren't necessarily directly lethal even to insects because of their length of time and their massive spreadability, right? They classify as a high hazard insecticide, right? Termiticide.
Yeah, think about a candle, right? When you were a kid, you crossed your hand over a candle very quick. Did anything happen to you?
No.
Because you were not exposed significantly enough to that candle to cause some damage, even though the candle itself has intrinsic properties that can cause some damage to you. Because you were so little exposed to it, it did not cause a significant damage. That's why pyrethroids are lame when it comes to roaches, because roaches avoid spending a significant amount of time in the same area where you have pyrethroids applied.
You want to touch on that when you were speaking about type 1 and type 2 pyrethroids and how that applies to German roaches?
I'm sure. I mean, you first got pyrethrins, which have been, forever, 200 years in the market. A fun fact. Did you know that they were not initially used to kill, but to repel? Like the chrysanthemum flowers, they were used in ships around food to protect the food from insects. It wasn't meant to kill. It was meant to irritate and repel insects from the area. Therefore, that's why the word pyro, it's in the group name. You know what pyro means? Like, pyromaniac or
Right, like fire.
like fire. Yeah. So the
Right, hot.
pyro is the pyro is irritation.
Right, right.
So originally it was used for irritating. For now they put it for flushing. Good. Um, then they went to synthetic pyrethrins, which were called pyrethroids. They were cool too. I mean, you got permethrin, you got aletrin, fast knockdown, low residuality. Very cool. You could. A lot of people use permethrin in their clothes, in their skin too. When you have some kind of disease, if you have the book Medical Entomology, there are some pastes that you apply in your body for some kind of insects,
Right, like
which
for mites, right? Like skin mites would use a
eh,
pyrethroid-based cream,
exactly permethrin.
permethrin. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Why can you use permethrin in your skin, but you cannot use cypermethrin, or you should not use cypermethrin in your skin?
I have no clue.
See, it's the molecule structure. Um, Pyrethroids type 2 cause something called, what's the word?
Oh yes, you were talking about this the other day. The tingling to the lips and the um that numb tingling feeling or that like kind of burning sensation, right?
It's called
Seismic,
paresthesia.
pyresthesia. That's right.
Yeah, which is
Now,
well,
weren't you and Cora saying that that was based on the cyano chain or the cyano aspect of it? That's what makes it the type 2.
yes, sir. It Think about this. When you have two chemicals, let's say you have um, permethrin as SFR, and you got, I don't know, psychic, right? One is a pyrethroid type 1, one is a pyrethroid type 2. For you to achieve the same amount of time residually in the space, you will need to use 22% permethrin. I think it was 22% or more, while psychic was about 6%, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. It was either psychic or fendona. So for pyrethroids type 2 to achieve the same result, you need very, very little. 30% compared to 6%.
So why is there such a big gap? Like what makes the jump?
Toxicity.
Toxicity.
The toxicity of, they interact deeper in the body. They don't break down as easily. If you're gonna use something like a pyrethroid type 1, you have to add PBO into it.
Right.
Like if you were to use Semprots, right? Semprots is a lot of etopenfrots and PBO.
For the listening audience, that's what piperonyl butoxide. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
So explain a little bit about piperonyl butoxide. How does that function?
It's basically junk, if you will call it like that. It's junk.
But what's the concept? What's the thinking behind it? It opens up the exoskeleton, right? Or it makes it more porous, more susceptible to uptaking chemical.
No, nothing at all. It's just junk. They think about it as, how can I say this? Think about it as um, an asteroid, a meteoroid shower, right? And you have some ships that want to attack a base in those meteorite showers, or meteorite rings in there. If you can't see the difference between the ships, and the meteorites, you will be attacking everything. If you have 5 times the meteorites, which is what happens when you use PVO, you add 5 times, 5 times the. If you were to use pyretrines, that's the rate. For 1 volume of pyretrines, it's 5 volume of PVO. In that way, when the enzymes get activated, instead of them deactivating all the pyretrines and causing no damage, they will mostly be deactivating the PVO, which doesn't do anything but distract the molecules, the enzymes that break down. So significant amount of pyretrines will reach the target zone and cause some damage. So it's basically junk to distract the enzymes. You know what I mean?
So I'm looking at here on the Wikipedia page, and it's kind of describing a little bit about it. I've seen PBO has been used in a lot of products for many years in the industry. It gets mixed around a lot in uh, in formulations where we're putting 2 or 3 different products together. So what are some better alternatives to just putting out so much chemical, so much product? What else? What is a more functional way to go about this?
It depends on what you want, to be honest. I mean, PVO is usually accompanied with a molecule that is kind of weak, like pyrethroids type 1. Again, if you look at something like Vanguard, right? Or if you look at something like Onslaught FastCap, why does Onslaught FastCap has PVO?
I'm not
Because
sure.
you want to have that quick effect with the pralatrine that the FastCap has.
How
If you don't have,
what are
yeah,
some of your thoughts on esfenvalerate? That's a type 2, isn't it? Is it not?
yeah, it's a type 2. And again, that's a very cool fact that this guy told the other day. You can actually look up at the molecule itself. Um, you have weird molecules. Like, there is a product from Rockwell Labs, and you don't know what chemical it is. It's called Malbrick or something, and the molecule doesn't end in train. So you're like, what is going on? What is this? Is this a neonic? Is this a abemectin? Is it a pyrethroid? What is this? Just looking at the chemical structure right away, you can tell it's a pyrethroid, and it is a pyrethroid type 2. I think it was either in Rockwell or Stoicon.
Let's see. Checking out the
Yeah, I think it's Stoicon actually.
Soicon. How do you spell? Who is that? I don't think I've even heard of that manufacturer.
Let me.
Like,
Yeah, Stoicon is. They are the makers of Gentrol, Precor, all of those.
let's look this up. Why do I feel like Zoicon?
Yes, sir.
That's it. Okay. Why did I feel like I didn't know that? But I obviously do. Okay.
Yeah, if you look at one of the products, should be there. It is a concentrate.
And what was that? What was the name of it? Do you remember?
Um, you'll find it very soon. I think it's. Let me see.
ACU, ARI.
Uh, keep
Because
looking.
because what you're making the point is that we are all kind of taught to just look for that thrin, And although that will lead you in the right direction most of the time, every once in a while you come across a product that does not end in a thrin, but is in fact a pyrethroid, sort of like
Yeah.
esfen valerate.
Yes, sir. Or etopenprot. Yep, no, that's not the one.
Huh. This is all they're
You,
showing on their list.
you might have
Let's see.
to you might have to keep looking
A
down.
little more. There we go.
Yeah, I think
Formoterol,
that one. Yeah, I think that's the one. The concentrate.
Marvic, or
Yeah, Marvick.
Maverick, whatever.
Yeah. What's the active ingredient?
Why is it fucking okay? Taufluvalinate. Taufluvalinate. I've never even heard of this.
Yeah, and it turns out to be pyrethroid type 2. So if you look at it, you're like, what what the hell? You don't even know what to expect from it.
But you know what though is I'm seeing that this esfen valerate, taufluvalinate seems to also be something we can, yeah, here we go. Synthetic pyrethroid, bam, right there.
Oh yeah, see. And if you look at the molecule, the scientific name of it, right away it's gonna appear cyano.
Yeah, let's see. Let's take a look at it. Yeah, there's your cyanochain. Right? I believe so.
Now, have you ever heard of isomers?
No.
Okay, so isomers are molecules from like derivatives from a same molecule but more toxic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Can you give an example of that?
Um, um, like typically, I can only think of like an individual like atom, right, or like a molecule. Let's see. Isomers are molecules or ions with the same formula but a different arrangement. Okay. So they're showing here of an example of how propane is derived from a type of alcohol
Mm-hmm.
when the remaining carbon valence is being filled from 7 hydrogen atoms and a hydrogen. Okay.
Let me give you an example.
Yeah, give an example of how we've got isomers
You,
being
we got
used in
we
the
got
pest
two,
control industry.
so far we got two isomers. We got more, but I can give you two very well known isomers. Um, you got the mother molecule, let's say cypermethrin, and you get the isomer more toxic than the mother molecule, alpha cypermethrin,
Okay, alpha cypermethrin. Oh, let's take a look at that.
which can be found, I think, in what's it called, Fendona. Yeah, alpha cypermethrin is found in Fendona and now in Ridesco, the new duo from BASF, I think.
Yep, type 2 is considered an oxic poison that prevents it in general. It's formulated as an EC. That's pretty interesting to know. A lot of things are microcaps.
Yeah. Also, when you have Tempo dust, right? You know Tempo?
Yeah.
Tempo has the molecule cyflutrin. But do you know what is more toxic than cyflutrin?
What, cypermethrin? What?
Beta-cyflutrin
Oh,
found
okay,
in
yeah,
temperate.
right, yeah. We're talking isomers, of course. Let's take a look at the label here. The label. They always have the label on DIY Pass. Where is it at? I scroll right past it.
Why don't you go to do my own? I think that one is better.
Is this DIY Pass?
No. I
Oh,
do
do
recommend
your
going to
own. That's right.
do my own because that one is more effective.
Yeah, they tend to have their own. Here we go.
Yeah, that's the one.
Label. Table pop-ups. Label.
Just a little, it says it a little more. You see, cyflutrin 1%,
Yep.
and then in temperate you get beta-cyflutrin. So that hints you, even though you got a lot of pyrethroids and a lot of pyrethroids type 2, um, some are more toxic than others.
Yeah, just straight up cyflutrin right here. Hmm. Well, that's incredibly insightful. So really keep an eye out for those alpha and beta
Yeah, some
molecules because those
like
will be a little bit hotter. And when you're
yeah.
worried about a stress population or where you're worried about repellencies,
Oh,
making
oh,
sure that
oh,
you're aware of those hot products. Talk a
yeah.
little bit about that.
Like cyhalothrin, right? You get lambda cyhalothrin, which is a more aggressive molecule. There is some research that says that the more toxic the molecule in case of survivorship, the more repellent it is.
What do you mean by that?
It means it's easier for the roach to be irritated by more highly toxic molecules like alpha cypermethrin, like lambda cyhalothrin, like beta cyflutrin, compared to the mother molecules like cyhalothrin, cyflutrin, or cypermethrin.
Hmm.
Yeah, I found that when I was doing my research on microcaps, because some PhD entomologists, they claim that because some pyrethroids are formulated as microcaps, roaches do not detect them, which is a complete lie. They do detect it.
So, kind of explain. Maybe some of the audience listeners don't know what a micro crap. Oh my god, micro. That is funny. I said micro cap product is, and maybe what some of the other type ones, which may be like ECs or other formulations. What are they trying? What are other entomologists trying to say when they say micro caps can't be detected? Jorge? Oh, we lose you here. Hey, buddy. Oh, he's muted. Okay. We'll take a second.
Oh, you hear me?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it looked like you
Okay,
just muted
perfect.
for just a moment. That's
Sorry.
okay. No problem.
Yeah. What was the last thing you heard?
Um, I was asking you a question about explain to the audience what is a microcap product and why would other entomologists be making the claim that pyrethroids that something about the microcap keeps roaches from detecting the pyrethroids. Like what is that, and how is it different than other formulations like ECs or?
Oh, there is something called availability, right?
Okay.
Uh, Microcaps are basically amounts of active ingredients that have been trapped. You hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. That are trapped in a polymer and they get released over time. However, depending on the pressure, depending on the quality of the microcaps, depending on how old the product is, when you're spraying that insecticide, a lot of them are going to be popped out. Therefore, the active ingredient will be available for the roach to be detected. Also, when the roach pass by the microcaps and they explode, because a lot of them can just explode right away.
You talking about the capsule itself? It ruptures.
Yeah, right away. And if they do so in a specific area and they get irritated, they will leave the area. That's what
To control the
cytorepellency
heavy
is.
infestation of crawl.
But some people claim that no, roaches don't really detect the microcaps. They carry the microcaps with them and eventually they break down in the body when the roach is far away from the exposure site, which is not true. But some people claim that.
Man, look at this microcap product where the guy has to wear a whole Tyvek suit to go spray baseboards. Damn. Look at this. PBO at 8%. That goes to show you what you were talking about. That five per times more product than the
Yeah.
prelethrin here, and then it's got permethrin on there as well. But I wonder if that's what it's actually floating in, or if
It,
it's a.
yeah, I mean the microencapsulation gives the molecule a long residual. Um, like pyrethrins are not residual, right? But
Speak about how fast does like straight pyrethrins volatilize off? Like how fast do they break
it
down in
depends
the
on
environment?
it depends on the formulation.
Well, let's say like something like Exciter, right? And say like at where I'm at, the South Gulf Coastal Plains, right? So we're South Gulf Coastal region, so we're getting high temperatures, lots of sunlight, lots of UV, lots of rain. What kind of real world longevity are we talking about on those products, and not laboratory conditions?
Um, if you apply it residually, by the time the roach pass by, the amount of pyrethrins she picks up is not significant to cause some damage. However, because again, most pyrethrins are either applied. No, yeah, most of them are in an easy formulation, so they break down very easy in the environment because of the formulation itself and because of the porosity. But if you have something like microcare, which is microencapsulated pyrethrins, then you can have a residual with the pyrethrins because the molecule is being protected by the polymer.
So how does that compare to like the neonicotinoid family? Do those also break down as fast as the pyrethroids without the microcaps?
Well, so far as far as I know, there is no neonic
That's
in a
microcaps.
microcap formulation.
Okay.
However, there is a very good podcast in. It's called Pesty Profiles, and there is this chemist called Mark. he explains in detail how the formulations work and the chemical classes. He explains that neonics outside, exposed to UV light, don't last a single day.
Really?
They are great if you inject them into plants, but if you spray them in the perimeter, they will not last to cause some damage.
So products like imidacloprid and like Intempered FX, are those kind of the products you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean it's really not gonna last a lot. Actually, in New York State, temperate is not allowed to be used outside.
Oh, okay. Wow, really?
Yeah, yeah,
Makes
that's
sense. No, I mean that makes sense.
yeah.
So, what are say you're looking for a pretty decent longevity, some residual effects, say something maybe trying to reach 90 days. Are
Fipronil
microcaps
Fipronil is a good option. Um, Microencapsulated pyrethroids are a very good option because again
we
they
just
don't.
saw that video of them trying to claim that microcaps last up to 6 months. Have you ever seen microcaps last up to 6 months in the wild?
It depends on the conditions, to be honest. Um, the hotter it is, the more breakdown you're gonna have.
Does the
So when they say,
PSI on your BNG or the spray
mm-hmm,
equipment you have matter as well?
yeah, yeah, the pH in the surface you're applying.
So not just in the water that you're using to spray, but also the pH of the surface. You're talking about like the concrete,
It can be concrete, it can be other surfaces. So
right?
it's a full combination. If you have had your, let's say, you haven't used your tank for 12 hours, there is something called hydrolysis.
Right. That's
So
that's
if you
the
have,
breakdown of the product in water, correct?
yeah, so if you have a microencapsulated that has been sitting down in water for 12 hours, and then you apply that in a very hot concrete surface with, and the cement is kind of new, you will have that product significantly broken down so quick compared to other kind of surfaces. So it depends on the applicator to see actually if it's gonna work or not.
But to offer some general real world advice for technicians out there, we can say that a good rule of thumb is to mix on site and only what you need, right?
Exactly, because the more you have it in the tank, the more hydrolysis.
And we really are limited to only a few products or a few family of products in the industry. You have neonics, you have the pyrethrins, you have a couple of IGRs, some chitin synthesis inhibitors, but there's not really an endless supply. Even though there's all these different names of products and they have all these different chemical names, and sure, there's some differentiation. In all reality, there's not a whole lot of pathways, not a whole lot of products, mode of actions that are available, and if we
But you
abuse them, that's part of the reason why we have so many different chemicals, right? Is because we're constantly just abusing these two categories of products.
yeah, and it's what to me on my personal experience, we do not need more chemicals because the industry is just reliant on these chemicals over and over and over again. We do not need more baits. We do not need more magical sprays. We don't. We just don't.
Well, we
You
kind of
know.
have a positive feedback loop or a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It's like the products get resistant, and then they come up with a new product, some new variant, some new isomer, right? That makes it a little bit more effective than the last product. And then everybody abandons the old product and moves to the new product. And then, now there's a mass adoption of that one. And before we even know it, there's a resistance being built to the new latest and greatest, right? And so it feels like every 2 to 3 years they're coming out with another, magic
yeah,
spray
and
silver bullet.
and and they don't get that when it comes to resistance. You get general resistance and you get specific target resistance. Rotation only helps with target resistance, but it doesn't help with, say, mutations. Oh, did you turn off the camera or
Yeah,
the
yeah. I just
presentation?
turned off the feed real quick to.
Okay, no problem. No
Go ahead and turn
problem.
it back on here.
If you spray, let's say, a neonic today, and some of the population survived, not because the site was insensitive, but because of the enzyme expression, and I apply a month later a fipronil, there will be cross resistance between the neonic and the fipronil. Even though I'm rotating mode of action, the cost of survivorship was enzyme detoxification. And then if I switch now from fipronil to a pyrethroid, I'm still having that resistance of enzyme detoxification. And then I choose ivermectin. I'm still having that. So, I know what I can do. I'm gonna put PVO into it.
Well, have you seen, particularly? I'm starting to see a lot of fipronil products that have pyrethroid based or pyrethroid
Me too.
combinations. Yeah, a Taurus True OG, and then we also see it happening with the neonics too, right? Stuff like Fuse, where they're putting fipronil and imidacloprid into the same products, right? Is that because are we mixing fipronil now in with everything because the other products are beginning to fail and not do their job, or what's the point? Is there, is are the other products serving as a quick knockdown where the residual and longevity of the fipronil plays like a back end role, or
For for what it's being used?
yeah, for
No.
what for why they're making all of these um multi-active
It's
ingredient products?
it's just marketing. It is just marketing.
So explain about that a little bit. You were talking about how men tend to buy, product consumer trends and stuff. Talk a little bit about that. Maybe
I
some of
mean
our audience will feel like they realize they've fallen into the same trap.
I mean people, men, like, I used to fall into that situation. I used to think, if I get everything together, let's say I used to go with temperate and exciter together, sir, and I used to blast roaches because it has a quick knockdown and it has a dual residual and it has three mode of action and it has PVO. Great. It was bullshit. Either I was wasting pyrethrins or I was wasting the residual insecticide, especially when there is nothing in there. It's like
True.
onslaught fast cap. If you're doing a perimeter spray preventive for scorpions with onslaught fast cap, you are wasting money because for onslaught fast cap, oh, for onslaught fast cap to work, for the parallelepiped to work, there needs to be an insect there. If there is not insect or arthropod in that corner, the PVO and the parallelepiped will break down very quick, and you will be left with the same residue you would have been left originally if you were only using Onslaught, the regular Onslaught.
Right.
So even though it's a combination product and it has so many active ingredients, we don't need that. Um, Vanguard, as an example, from MGK, it has lambda-cyhalothrin, pyriproxyfen, um, it has praletrin and PVO. So that's one, two, three, four active ingredients.
Completely unnecessary.
Completely unnecessary. Unless it's like a really fucked up situation with mosquitoes, you don't need that. If there are no mosquitoes but you detect early mosquito larvae, you can use only night guard. But if there is no mosquitoes or there is no larvae, then you will be wasting so much product. But that's what we want. Now, and again, I hope I don't get cancelled. Um, Now there is a new bait from Nisus. It seems like a good bait, right? It's called Dual Strike. Is it gonna kill roaches? Definitely. Is it necessary to have boric acid and fipronil together in a bait? Nah, it's not necessary. With what we have in the market right now, it's good. But people when they put juvenoids and in gel baits, it made sense because there is no resistance to juvenoids and it prevented a bounce back in the population. It made complete sense. Albion Trio, great insecticide. But when you have two killing agents, you might not have that synergy.
Yeah, can you talk about a couple of products lately that are showing that have kind of hit the market that are a little bit funny, where they've got opposite mode of actions, like two ingredients that kind of cancel each other out, and they're still, are we seeing anything like that?
Um,
I think Cora mentioned something about that the other day. He works in a retail store, so he sees a lot more products than I do. But I thought that was pretty comical. They're just kind of slapping anything they can, which makes you wonder. Okay, it's like I don't know if that's really a thing. You mentioned boric acid a minute ago. That is kind of a different route or a different mode of action than just your typical neurotransmitter inhibitor or some kind of nerve impulse inhibitor, acetylcholine inhibitor. Um, Describe a little bit about how boric acid works.
Boric acid has multiple modes of action,
Okay.
but it basically, when it is ingested, when it is ingested, it destroys internally the roach gut, and it also has some of acetylcholine, what's it called? Acetylcholine inhibitors, like the organophosphate
Right.
action around the cells, the nerve cells around the stomach.
Oh, okay. So it specifically affects the area around the stomach, the
Yeah,
acetylcholine receptors.
yeah. So it destroys that, and it basically has that effect. Does it Is it a desiccant like say Cymetza or diatomaceous earth? No, it's not. It's not. Kobe Shaw did research recently about boric acid and bedbugs. Because a lot of people, and in a lot of freaking books, you read boric acid is a desiccant. It's not. It doesn't affect the cuticle. It mainly works when it's ingested.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of how I've always understood it.
Yeah,
Like
but
Cymexa
so
does. You want like a silica powder or something
it,
like that for a desktop.
exactly. So it is not a dissecant. Bedbugs cannot when they groom themselves, they do not ingest boric acid. So when they were exposed to boric acid dust, they did not die, not a single one.
Yeah, that makes
When
sense
they
with their mouth parts being for blood sucking.
exactly when they drank blood with boric acid, they died. When they when the concentration was at some point, the bedbugs could detect the boric acid in the solution, and they stopped drinking, and they survived. So that's called behavioral resistance.
So I've seen in the past, I've at CEUs and presentations where these manufacturers are talking about, how they've learned that it's not about changing out the active ingredients all the time, but making more complex bait matrices. Have you seen that manifest over the last few years? Have you noticed that? Are we going back to the basics when it comes to the active ingredients and making better bait matrices, or are we just seeing the same old, same old?
It's an interesting point because I could say I have a broader perspective than most people in the US because I've been outside the US where you don't get that bait matrix resistance pressure. Like in Mexico, let's say. In Mexico, you do not have bait regularly with without glucose. So let's say in Mexico, right? In Mexico, they are using more and more bait, but it's mainly 90% spray, maybe 10% bait.
Right.
Opposite to the US, because we use a lot of bait and focalized spray. Over there, a lot of spray. Um, so the Avion they got in there, it has sugar, regular sugar. I got a sample from a gel bait from Spain, which is designed for averse populations. And we took the comparison between the Avion with sugar and the gel bait without sugars. I mean, regular sugars. It had, I think, maltodextrin. Get which gel they all came running for.
Let me guess. The good old fashioned regular glucose sugar.
Oh yeah, because glucose is a phagostimulant. So they basically ignored completely the bait that was designed for aversion and destroyed the regular Albion.
Would that have experience replicated itself on like American populations?
Well, I think people in here have lost the perspective. Like people always are pushing, oh, this gel bait is for aversion, is for aversion. Um, yeah, sure. Use specific baits designed for aversion, but do not lose the advantage of the attraction of regular sugars.
Yeah,
Most
I
baits in the
remember
market,
hearing older PMPs say that a German roach treatment used to be knocked out back in the day with one single treatment of just like a tube of Max Force, right? And it kind of makes you wonder how much they were really leaning on that bait.
yeah, a lot. And that's the thing, people abuse the tools they got.
So what's the
It,
number one tool on the market that's currently being abused, and what's the tool that may have just hit the market that we need to be skeptical of rushing to abuse?
hmm, I mean, re- regular baits have been abused a lot. Regular sprays Alpine has been abused a lot, right? People do perimeter spraying and spray and pray a lot. They do they do some dots of bait, some spray, they leave, and oh surprise, in a month you go back up the population. So they rotate the insecticide and they rush over and over again to the chemical applications. Because of the roach metamorphosis, IGRs are actually very safe. Like, it's very hard for roaches to develop resistance to IGRs
Is there a
because they
reason
don't
for that?
because they don't die.
Oh yeah, okay, obviously that makes sense.
If like you can develop resistance to IGR if you have complete metamorphosis. Flies can develop resistance to IGRs. Mosquitoes can develop resistance to IGRs. But because German roaches have incomplete metamorphosis, it's very hard for them to develop resistance to an IGR. And keep in mind, when you have an Utica with 40 embryos, and let's say out of those 40 embryos, you got 2 or 3 embryos that were not affected by the IGR significantly to stop the Utica development, it doesn't really matter because they either all come out or none of them do. For the Utica to hatch, there has to be at least 80% of the embryos viable for them to break through that egg case.
Oh, I
But
didn't
if
even know that.
but if only 2 of them out of 40 get to actually develop and become quote unquote resistant to the embryo side effect, it won't matter. They won't come out.
Now, is that because they lack the strength to emerge, or there's just something hormonal that causes them to not?
No, they lack the strength. It
Yeah.
has to be um, a group effort,
Hmm.
which is pretty cool to be
Yeah.
honest.
No, I never even knew that it was that it worked in that way.
Yeah, so for
Because I've
them to
always heard that you have to be very careful about those uthicas. Because even if the adult female German roach dies, those egg cases will still continue to breed wherever she stuck it at. So it's
but
important. It's important to know that if you get that IGR out there and you get it in quick, like you said, that could actually affect that Uthika from ever hatching.
yeah, the most important thing, and that's what I told in the beginning of this presentation, is you must allow the roach to keep contact with the IGR for the IGR to have a significant effect on the Utica. If you push the roach away, it's like a human female, right? Let's say your girlfriend is under birth control and she's taking the pills. For the pills to work, she needs to take the pills every day at a specific time. Because if she doesn't do so, the body metabolizes the pill, and by the time she develops and matures her OCT, she will get pregnant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So, because I've seen several companies have their protocol to introduce an IGR in their German roach treatment protocol, but they're only introducing it, say, on one of the three treatments that they're doing or one of the two treatments that they're doing to solve it. What you're saying here is that having that persistent IGR, or maybe even possibly including an IGR into every treatment
No,
until
you
the
just
until
you
the
don't
population is resolved.
You don't have to do it into every treatment. Um, IGRs like Nygaard or Tecotrio can last a long ass time in the environment.
How
Up
long
to,
are we talking? 90 plus
up
days?
to up to 6 months.
Oh, okay. So then a
Because
single
again,
application of IGR then is
but it depends on the population too. If you have a high population, they will absorb that IGR, and let's say they all die, but you will not have significant IGR in the surface. But if you eliminate the population, let's say you use pest coat, and you vacuum all of those roaches and you flush, and basically you leave almost no roaches, but you kept the pheromones in place, the aggregation pheromones, and you spray the IGR on top of those pheromones. When a new roach arrives, either a surviving roach or an immigrant roach from a neighbor, and she goes and hides in the same area that you apply the IGR because there are pheromones in there. By the time she tries to develop an ootica, that ootica will be dead.
So let me ask you this: talking about aggregation pheromones, and that IGRs are essentially synthetic bug hormones and pheromones, right? Is there a day where we could see aggregation pheromones in the baits themselves, right, to draw?
But you don't need to. Like, if you find the actual aggregation zone and you put the bait in there, you'll be alright. Now, what I do is I put, and let's say it's a big population, right? Big time ass population, and you can only do gel bait. But you know that in some areas you can reach the gel bait. I'm sorry, you can pull it out. Let's say a heavy fridge that you cannot pull out, but you have enough space for you to throw something behind there. You can either do the cardboard um, trick that my friend the last time said. You fold it and you put, you tie it up and you put bait in there or boric acid or whatever, and you toss it there. Or what I do is I apply about 20 points of bait on a non-active glue trap. They all go, let's say it's behind the fridge motor and you have tons of roaches in there. They will go for that bait. By the time you go back and you get that glue trap underneath the paper, you're gonna have so many roaches and so much pheromone in there that you can use that glue trap again without activating it as a pheromone station to attract them. Let's say you take that and you recycle that station and you go into another area with all those dead roaches and you put gel bait in there. You
Now
will.
that is some next level field expert stuff. If anybody gets a chance to hear that in our audience, they're gonna take that one to the bank because a lot of our guys, they see a dirty roach infested glue board, they're folding it in half and they're tossing it away. They're throwing it in the nearest trash can, and and I don't blame them for doing that. So what you're saying though, as counterintuitive as one might naturally think, that's actually pretty fucking genius.
Yeah, and you know what? It fucking works. I have videos of it. If you want, I can post it. I have videos of it.
Come on,
Where
we want the content.
Yeah, where I went there and I put my non-active glue traps with the bait. They ate the hell out of it. But again, because it has cracks and foldings, you still got tons of roaches going underneath. And they completely eat that bait. So when I put the new bait over those over that paper, and I put it in the middle of the table, a lot of roaches just come out running and eat it.
Do you ever use any of these recycled traps to spray like IGRs around them and
No,
put some
I don't need to.
underneath anything?
No, I don't need to. I'd rather just use gel with an IGR like Vendetta or Avion Trio, which again, they are great. But between Vendetta and Avion Trio is more aggressive.
What's it got in it? Let me take a look at that. Advion Trio. Oh, and it's cheaper. Would you look at
And it's,
that?
and it's a great.
Indoxacarb. I love Indoxacarb. Talk about a product that slept on. Everybody kind of moved past it. It was a great one that I loved using. The little single serve pouches. I think it was of the Advion, yeah, WSP or something was what it was. Great product, and it uses similar mode of actions as some of our other favorite products. Yeah, and then let's see, Novalurin and Pyroproxen or whatever, Pyroproxafen.
Okay, so Novaluron is quicker than Pyriproxyfen, but Pyriproxyfen can last longer than Novaluron.
How long are we talking on the Pyroproxafen?
Again,
Like,
so far it's
maybe
in
6
6
months.
months,
6 months. And on the Novalurin, how fast are we seeing a reaction to that?
3 4 days maybe.
Oh wow! And then,
Because
but it only lasts what? How long?
actively it can last, a month, maybe a month and a half. Depends on the population and how big it is.
So, but this is important, see, because the guys who are who are picking their products, they're going to see these active ingredients, Novalurin, they're going to see Pyroproxafen, and they need to know, just how long are they actually getting coverage using these active ingredients, and then they need to be assessing their work sites. How much grease is there? What is the pH of the area? What's the pH of your water? The temperature, some of those exposures to light, UV. Those are all important things to know. But having just a baseline understanding of how long these products can last can really give you, as an applicator, especially if you're coming with a place where you're having reoccurring treatments or issues that are popping back up over and over again. Maybe you're treating them on a quarterly basis, maybe you're treating them on a monthly basis. These things can help you pick out the right product for the job.
Yeah, and the thing is, people are biased. Like, people are biased by um the amount of food or grease or whatever in a commercial kitchen. Roaches don't really want to be in a greasy area. They don't. Roaches are very, very picky. Now, why are roaches really in a kitchen area?
That's interesting you're saying that, because I've always heard that grease was a roach's favorite food.
No, they wanna be balanced. They need sugars for their chitin. The chitin is a carbohydrate. So for their growth and structure, they need sugar. They need proteins for cell development. I think, and they need grease. So it has to be a combination of all of this. These three elements.
But do they eat grease though? They
They
eat
can eat.
fats.
They can eat grease. Yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what I was okay, yeah. You
but
had me
they don't
confused there
love it.
for a moment, as if you were saying roaches did not, in fact, eat grease.
No, they eat grease, but they prefer a balanced diet.
That makes sense. Them being omnivores and able to eat anything and everything.
Yeah, there is a sales pitch from the guys at Nisus that says, "We developed, with the new bait, we developed this bait based on the composition of a greasy kitchen." And I'm like, what the hell? No, it's just it doesn't. Again, they don't want to live in that kind of environment, and they actually get sick. Um, you can have a greasy area and you can still solve the issue easily. Easily. Like there is no excuse for that. The only excuse you will have if you're if you're only relying on residual insecticides.
Have you ever heard of uh, people mopping kitchen floors with
Boric acid?
boric acid?
It works. Again, you can apply boric acid, and the boric acid stays on top of the grease and get absorbed. And if the roaches eat that junk, they will absorb the boric acid. It's like a bait, and they will eat it and die.
So the principle behind the treatment is at least sound. You know, the idea of, you know, mopping the boric acid everywhere and it kind of converting all of that residual floor grease into some sort of bait. It's at least not often thinking. Or are you still there, buddy? Look at that. There it is. There's the mopping right on the label. Oh, cool. Jorge, you there, buddy? Oh. I see he's turning on and off the mute. That might just be the end for us tonight. Anyways, it is look like it's getting a little bit late. Give him another second to see if he can get his microphone working. And if not, that's like I said, it is a-okay. We've had a wonderful night. Very good information. A lot of great tips and tricks for applicators out in the field. Some gold mines here. Some really good information on insecticides. A lot of scientific information here tonight. I really appreciate you taking your time, just coming on, talking a little bit, sharing some of your insights, sharing some of those studies that you've discovered recently, some of those other international experiences that you've had, and some of the products that you've experienced all around the world and within our market. I really appreciate you bringing such a in-depth knowledge to the table.
Thanks for tuning into the Licensed Skill Podcast. We hope you found today's episode helpful, informative, and engaging. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe to your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review. It really helps us to reach more listeners like you. Have a question or a topic that you'd like us to cover in a future episode? Connect with us through our Facebook, YouTube, and most importantly, our Discord. Until next time, this is your host, Marcus, reminding you to stay sharp, stay legendary, stay connected.